Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. 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 Tune in to TLS. Yeah, tune in to TLS. It's the TLS show. Coming to you live on the TLS show.
Hey, welcome to the Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast, social commentary, hot topics, and amazing guests with a ton of fun and shenanigans along the way. Today's show, Vita Kulyk shares her terrifying experience getting stuck in Ukraine while visiting family, and she'll tell how she was able to escape. Then we've got some hot topics. Rob B will discuss the human rights abuses in Qatar ahead of the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup. Lizzie has a story of Shanquella Robinson's strange death in Mexico. And I want to talk about Hakeem Jeffries, who's poised to become the first black leader in Congress. But before we get into the show, let me introduce you to my co-hosts. First up, our lovely professor, journalist, and editor streaming live from Washington, D.C., Miss Liz E.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday, fun day. Hope everyone had a good week. Across the United States, though, it's been a pretty tough week. It's been a pretty violent week. We had two mass shootings. One as recently as last night in Springs, Colorado, at a nightclub there. So far, 5 people were killed, several others injured. We had the mass shooting earlier this week, actually last Sunday, at the University of Virginia's campus in Charlottesville, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
where 3 football players were shot and killed, 2 others shot and injured. And then we had 4 students who were stabbed to death at the University of Idaho. So it's been a very violent week in the United States. And unfortunately, it's become a sign of the times. And I don't
Yeah.
know how we get away from that, but I just want everyone to pause, like stop, pause, calm down, and realize that violence should not be your first go-to. Killing each other should not be your first go-to. And it's going to be a theme unfortunately, throughout today's show. But I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what's been going on in the States this week, because it's been pretty sad news all around.
Yeah, it's been becoming the norm now, unfortunately,
Yes.
Yeah.
especially in the U.S. Rob B will tell us all about that. All right.
Right?
And next up, our nature lover, gamer, rock star coming to you from Ontario, Canada, Mr. Rob B. Rock.
What's up? So, winter has arrived in northern Ontario. We have snow, and it did inspire my wife and I to decorate for the holidays. Yeah.
Yay!
So, yeah, we put up a tree, we put up some festive lighting, we started sorting gifts
Nice.
for various people on the list, and we purchased a few more ornaments just to balance out some of the tree themes. Balance out the tree theme. There we go. So yeah, we got
Yes.
the
Yes.
Christmas moose mug, a couple of Christmas characters, Ahsoka Tano, plain old stormtrooper. We just have nerdy decorations. Merry Festivus.
Nice. Merry Festivus. Did you say?
I'm being all inclusive, baby.
So silly.
All inclusive.
All of us.
Gianna, you know what Festivus is? I'm just out of curiosity.
Oh no, I thought he just made it up like on the spot right now.
I mean, it is
Well,
made
thanks,
up,
buddy.
but it
I
wasn't on the
appreciate
spot.
That vote of confidence. I appreciate that.
All right. And our college
All
student,
inclusive.
our college student model, entrepreneur, streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, Miss Gianni Storm.
Hey guys, I missed you. This week has been chill for me. I know last time I told you guys my car was broken into, and then days after that my car was actually robbed. I'm like stolen.
What,
But
the entire car was stolen this time?
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
it just went just like escalated.
It sounds more and
So-
more
Go back
funny,
into
Johnny.
quarantine. We got to go back into quarantine, folks. It's
Good Lord.
Yes.
out here.
self-voluntary quarantine. But no, things are all good. I've been saging, I've been protecting and praying because I just feel like
You've been saging. Did-
because the cops won't do it. There's no protection out here.
But the cops
So
won't burn
listen,
sage for you? What do you say? The cops
no, the
won't
cops won't
burn
protect her.
sage for you?
The cops
no,
won't
the cops
protect her,
won't
so she's got
protect.
to. So she's got to do sage.
Exactly. So Lizzie, you were right. Everybody listen to Lizzie. Stop resorting to crimes and violence and just calm down.
Especially
Go
crimes against
home.
Gianni.
Yes, of all people. Especially not me. But no,
Not me, man.
All right.
it's been a good week. It's been a good week for me though.
All right, good. All right, and of course, I'm Neil Nix. I am a little sick today, so I apologize if my voice is a little off. But now you know why, and I'll be sucking the hell out of some cough drops for the rest of the show. I'm actually not sure what I have. No, it's not COVID because I tested like 3 times just to be sure. But it's like I don't know. Nowadays we're just like everything's COVID. That's like the first thing I thought of. Oh, I must have COVID. I must have COVID. But I think it's picked up something else. There's like a billion other diseases out there. So who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, COVID's not the only one. All right. All right. Let's excuse me. All right. Let's not keep our guests waiting any longer. She's got quite a story to tell. I will warn you, some of this conversation and images may be graphic, so discretion is advised. Now, it's hard to believe, but the war in Ukraine has been going on for nearly 9 months now, going on a year. It started back in February when Vladimir Putin decided to invade Ukraine, claiming that he was trying to reunify the former Soviet Union. And since then, over 200,000 soldiers on both sides have been estimated to have been killed. Over 6,000 civilian deaths have been verified, and nearly 500 of those are children. But with the number of mass graves found in areas retaken by Ukrainian forces, reports of Russian soldiers as executing civilians, and the ongoing bombings, it's estimated that over 40,000 civilians have actually been killed since the war started. Excuse me. Now, today's guest, Victoria Kulyk, who also goes by Vita, went to visit her family in Ukraine just before the war started and ended up getting stuck there. She just recently returned to the U.S. after finally safely escaping through Poland, and she's here to tell her terrifying story. Hey, Vita.
Welcome. Welcome.
How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast. Now, I've just got to start out with how are you? How are you doing these days? And how's your family? Is your family okay?
Um, uh, the how are you question has been very symbolic recently because like there's no answer to it. There is no proper answer to it because it's all at once and everything that you can think of. But in Ukraine, this question is like we know the answer. We know that there is no proper answer to this, but
Right.
saying it expresses just love and support for the other. Just saying,
Okay.
just asking. So to answer that, it's okay when it's not okay, but it is all right.
Okay. So you're doing well. That's
Thank you,
good.
thank you for asking.
Yeah, I honestly can't imagine what it must have been like for you. Um,
Um,
so
Neither do I.
all right.
Yes.
So then let's go back. Um,
Mhm.
how did you find yourself in Ukraine back when the war started?
So you know that in Ukraine, the Christmas is a little different. The Christmas starts and all the holiday starts in January, not in December. And so I was so exciting after 2.5, probably up to 3 years not being home. I was so excited to go back for the holidays reason. And the Russian troops has been gathering near the border probably since November,
Yeah.
maybe October, November
Yeah.
before that, and everybody's here was telling me, like, look what's happening. Ukraine is now like everywhere on the news. we have never heard about Ukraine so much like these days and stuff like that. But I was like, guys, come on, this is crazy. Nobody would invade. No, like the war wouldn't start. It's just the trick to scare us or something.
Mhm.
I didn't believe it to the last point, even when all the intelligence in the world, while being in Ukraine, they were saying probably February 16th, I think, that they would invade, and
Yeah.
all the flights were postponed and stuff like that. So all of that was, I'm like, no, it's
So
not
you thought
happening.
you thought for sure it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
thought it was just
I
a.
was sure.
Oh wow.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, I was like at peace to the last point, till the 23rd.
That's faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, do you think that you had that you wasn't thinking that there was going to be a war because there's been tension between, Ukraine and
Hmm.
Russia for years, and Putin's been
Yeah.
threatening for years. So did a lot of that go in
Right.
your mind like, okay, this is just another threat from Putin? Is that what you
Yes.
were thinking?
Yeah. So basically, Ukraine has been in war since 2014 when Russia invaded the Donbass region,
Hmm.
Donetsk and Luhansk regions, right? All
Hmm.
the east of Ukraine, and they annexed Crimea the same year, primarily to that invasion. So it's been going on, and you're getting used to it. You're getting used to,
Yeah.
which I feel so sorry for right now. But even back at home, you're getting used to it. And it's
Hmm.
something that is there. Once in a while, you hear some stories about it. At the beginning of 2014, 2015, there were like more or less aggressive action, and you hear it and every day. But after that, you're getting used to it. Like
Yeah.
the news are not resembling it as much. The newspapers or the internet news, you don't hear it as much unless you are in that field, unless you are being volunteering in the military or helping the military throughout all of these years. You don't hear as much.
All right. So
Right.
February 24th hits, and
Mhm.
Putin decides to invade. Now, what's going through your mind? What's going through your families? What are you guys? And where are you at the time?
I'm in my bed. I live in in the west side of Ukraine, so the whole so we didn't receive the whole shooting and airstrikes up until like later.
Okay.
But I like that day, probably nobody can forget because everybody has different experience and everybody had a different perception of it. For me, it was 6 a.m. when my dad woke up and he turned on the news and I hear him saying, "Oh my gosh, they are shooting." And I'm like, no, what? Like through my dream and everything, I was I'm like, no, no, it's not happening. And then my brother wakes up at the same time, and then I understand that they invaded. So I wake up, my whole body is numb. This is something that probably like very prominent feeling that I will never forget because this numbness will go for days, for like 2 or 3 days. It's like completely numb. And so that's like when all the emotions, just like getting themselves in the bubble, in the huge bubble, and you don't, and the rest is just space. You
Yeah.
don't have anything. You just like see the news when all the our all channels, all the TV united, and
Yeah.
they were translating what's happening everywhere. So you just like you're stuck at one place on one stool and just watching the news.
Well,
Did
so go ahead. Go, Johnny.
I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
did you and your family formulate a plan in that moment to have to leave immediately, or was it still kind of panic?
We've been warned before to gather a so-called safety backpack, which would consist of the documents or some money or some valuable stuff, anything that you would need to travel, some matches, lights, and stuff like that.
Yes.
But honestly, my family didn't do it. We didn't do
Yeah.
it. The decision that we didn't even talk about, didn't discuss, was to stay no matter what. And if they come, they would have to kill us to leave, or like to take our land or to take our apartment and that kind of thing. So it's kind of silently, it just went through it went between us, and that's it. We never thought of leaving.
Yeah.
Do
And a
you
lot of
have any
Is it
friends
just
or family that are currently serving in the Ukrainian armed forces? And if
I
so,
have friends.
are you able to communicate with them?
I have friends who are serving there. I've been able to get in touch with some of them. With some of them, I'm getting in touch through other people. Fortunately, they've been not in the front line. They've been on the second line on defense. So they, well, it's it's a very weird or bizarre way to say, but they're in much more safety than the front line, I guess.
yeah,
Yes.
of course.
Yes, but
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Liz, you had something?
I was just going to go back to, the decision that she and her family made to stay in place, to, not to leave, not to flee, not to go to another location, another city, another country. Did that decision change after a while? Did people eventually say, no, we have to get out of here?
hmm Well, my mom would definitely pushing me away, kicking me out.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
so my brother could not leave and cannot leave because of his age. I have an older grandma, so that's also
Yeah. Mhm.
an
Yeah.
issue. Yeah, that will
Right.
absolutely that's not plausible. And, to leave or to go anywhere. And my so uh, technically that was at that point it was just the decision, like we just have to be here. I don't know for what we have to be here.
Did you think at some point you just wake up and maybe it'd be over, or that you just wake up and you'd be annexed with Russia? You'd be just a Russian
Absolutely, yes,
territory.
yeah. Up until they left Kiev
Mhm.
and the northern east part of Ukraine, that was everyday threat.
Yeah. Now, what does that mean to you to be a part of Russia versus being independent Ukrainian?
That's a very good question. This Russia has been stealing everything from us for generations, for hundreds of years, including history,
Mm.
including our language,
Wow.
including, well, everything that you can think of. And fortunately, I've been from the part of Ukraine that more or less have been trying to preserve Ukraine, authentic Ukraine.
Yeah.
Of course, we've been under different states, different countries, different empires, but nobody has been treating us worse than Russia.
I bet.
Since generations, that's been nothing but the torture, vandalism, rape, anything bad that you can think of that's been happening under Russia. So it's not even a question of whether to be with Russia or not to be. It's better to die than to be with Russia.
Wow. Because I'm looking at. We know that we've heard about the executions. It's like the just the
Mhm.
way they care about or don't care about life in general, lives. It's appalling. One of the things I had noticed that was really heartbreaking to me was images where people have been killed and they have their suitcases as they're trying to flee. When you thought about leaving or considered leaving, was that something that you were thinking about?
You mean about being killed on the way?
Being killed on the way, trying to leave, yes.
Honestly, I never thought of leaving.
You never thought of leaving?
I could never leave. Yes, I could never leave my family.
Okay.
For me, it was, impossible to even think, and still is impossible to even think if something happens to them and I'm alive. This, this is something that is beyond my understanding so far.
So you were going to stay to
I
protect your family no matter what.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My the on the other hand though, it's been everyday constant feeling that yes, it may just come right into my house or right into like the street that I'm walking. There was like no feeling of safe space anywhere. I know that the basement, the bomb shelters and everything. Well, the unfortunate thing is that we didn't have them enough. We didn't have a good
Mm,
ones, right? Later on, we discovered about the rule of two walls, but at the beginning, there was like no, no safe place. So everywhere where you go, it's like it's that feeling, especially when the airstrike alarm takes off.
So
Right.
so you were worried about the air raids coming through, so you never knew when you were going to get a bomb or something on your
Yes.
buildings.
Yeah.
And
Oh God.
I know that Ukraine, I think people sometimes think of these war torn areas as just like rubble already. But from my understanding, Ukraine had grown into a beautiful, thriving country and kind of like pretty much what you'd see here in the United States. And then, to see some of these images of like destruction, I mean, it's just amazing. And it makes me think about what that would be like here. I mean, it has to be just scary for you, the family, everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely. Ukraine has been, it definitely since 2014, it has been in economical crisis. But we had our European way of our political constructure, basically going to Europe, right?
Mhm.
And everything was raising up. Everything became modern. The economy went better. People started living better. Everything on the street, it was not like a Soviet Union, just the buildings. Everything, the architecture, the historical places, everything is so beautiful. It was beautiful before, but economically, we were just like it was about to end. This economical crisis was about to end, with COVID
Yeah.
hitting and pandemic hitting. Of course, it didn't help, but it was about to hit. We would need another few years to get out of that crisis
Yes.
and continue living. And then just boom, at one day and 1 second, everything changes.
So you finally did leave, obviously. Um, so what was that
Mhm.
experience like? What prompted you to leave? What happened?
Right. So I left in September. That was by choice. Definitely not was forced to leave. I would say that I lived in the much more, even though there is no safe place in Ukraine, but I lived in the a fairly safe zone, where
Mhm.
after they left Kiev, there was no threat of them coming there. It was only
Yes.
airstrike alarms, airstrikes basically. And while I was at some point, it was a little quieter, which I understand right now. This is like okay, this is going to be like a little down until it upgrades into the East Front, right?
All right.
So I thought because all of the news were all about nothing, about just like regular stuff, or everything else was like getting more strike alarms, and I thought that this because that was the experience from 2014. So that is gonna be into this stage. This will go into to this stage,
So
and since I
so you
wasn't
thought it was
working,
calming
yeah,
down, basically. You're saying you thought it was
I was
starting to calm down.
yes, yes,
So I
that
mean,
I would
so
make
but
some.
Ukraine's been winning, right? They've been winning this
Absolutely,
war.
yeah.
Because they've retaken several territories, and they're starting to push
Mhm.
out Russia. Um, I mean, obviously, there's been casualties on both sides, so there's really no winner in this. But they've been definitely making strides to coming back. So, did you feel like maybe this because Ukraine was sort of winning or pushing them back, that was a good time to leave?
At that point, actually, Ukraine was the front was still it's never still, but we don't hear about that news unless
Okay.
you are very
Right.
very much in connection with the military stuff.
Okay.
You don't
Yeah.
hear about that. You don't hear much because it's under the secrecy, which is it's understandable. And it was just coming into the sensation. There were now no strikes so much, not so big wins, not big losses. So I decided to go because I thought that I can actually do more while working here. I can help a little bit more over there because
Oh, it
I
makes sense.
Yeah.
was already thinking about the restoration, the rebuilding and
Right.
stuff like that. But little did I know, of course. I mean, this is all the experience that you can only get while living it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
That's true.
and how did you get out?
I went through Poland. It took me probably, well, good 24 hours with the break to get through Poland, but it wasn't bad. I wouldn't because usually it would take people 7 days to stay at the border, or
Mhm.
like even
Wow.
more. There were huge lines. I was considerably lucky. We went through the border pretty quick, and just to get to the Warsaw and stuff, and further, it took longer.
Oh.
How many people were
Wow.
in your group when you went to Poland? Was it just you, or were there how
Uh,
many other people were with you?
I was the only one who was actually going to US, but the other people were going. The other people that were in the car, there were five other women because
Yes.
men are
Okay.
not allowed to leave the country. They went to actually work in Poland for the seasonal job because
Oh, wow.
like everything went down in Ukraine, so like people would search and look up for additional financial
Right.
support and
Did I hear you
yes,
say?
everywhere.
Did I hear you say that men are not allowed to leave?
Yeah, certain groups are only allowed to leave that are beyond 60 years old,
Oh,
and the ones that have three children or more. And I think there are there are maybe like one or two other groups of
categories.
men. Yeah,
Okay.
that are yes,
Yeah,
yeah, categories. Yeah.
it's
Most
it's
men.
pretty typical wartime
Yep.
rules. They want the men to stay back so they
Mhm.
can potentially fight. So they let the women and
Yeah.
children or the elderly or people who have medical conditions
Mhm.
go first.
Yep.
But it's still very jarring to
To
hear, you
hear.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
it's still
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
jarring to hear.
All right.
And
Any?
so how long did you stay in Poland?
For one day only.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
And
It
then
was
from
more of
Poland
a
you went to
transition.
and then from Poland you
Straight to
went
New York.
to okay,
Okay.
okay, very good. Very good.
Mhm.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what about friends that are back? Like, do you know anyone that is still trying to get out, or are people still feeling like, okay, things are subsiding a little bit. Maybe it'll get better.
Mhm. Honestly, it's not subsiding at all. But
Okay.
as weird as it is, as messed up as it is, people are coming back. They are not leaving. All of my
Okay.
Going
friends are
back to
back. Some of
Ukraine.
them never leave. Yes,
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's their home. Unless people lost everything and like they basically don't have a place to live, they are those are the ones who are staying abroad. Otherwise, people are coming
Yeah.
back. A lot of them are coming back right now.
I've got a
Wow.
I'm
question
just
online for
curious.
you. Um, I'll let you ask your question. Let me just get this one in. Is there? This is from Jacqueline Robinson online. Is there concern that the rest of the world will basically move on the longer this war continues?
Is there a concern that the war will move
that
on?
that the
Will
world
move on?
that the world will move on, that they
The world.
won't care anymore, as long because right now we hear about Ukraine. We hear about it regularly still on our news cycles, but as it continues into February, and that which will make it a year, do you feel like the world will stop caring, or stop it won't be front and center anymore?
Absolutely. 100% yes. And even though all the politicians and like everywhere in the world, they are support probably, well, everybody of the civilized world, they are supporting and expressing the further and continuing support for Ukraine. All of the people are fearing that it will stop being important. And that is why I'm so grateful for you guys for doing this. Because every day, every single month, every month, like as we I don't want to say celebrate. It's not a celebration, but every 24th, we're like, okay, like, where are we? Like, are we,
Yeah.
like, are we getting somewhere?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, is it gonna end? People are exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. I understand that. Believe me, like, I know that it is overwhelming, but this is something that, I don't even know how to explain. This is a new experience. This is war.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Rob?
Yeah. So I'm very curious. Now that you are back home and you're safe and sound, what is the most difficult part of being back home?
Of being back in New York, or being back
Where
in Ukraine, you mean?
being back in the US where you're safe. What's the most difficult
Okay.
part about being back in the US?
Um, um, I've heard, our psychologists and psychiatrists, they were saying that, uh, the PTSD will kick in once like you're in the safe place or after the war is gone, or
Mhm.
when it stops. So, and I surely did not know that it would be the case for me. You know, uh,
Wow.
um, the feeling, coming here at the beginning was so crazy because you're in the safe zone, but you are
Yes.
jumping up when you hear the helicopter sound or the plane sound, and you're just like you want to be somewhere under the ground. You want to be somewhere where like it's safe, where like that, with in between the two walls or something like that. Um,
Yes.
I prepared myself for some of the emotional issues that I might face, like, people not caring about it, people not still know the difference between Russia and Ukraine. That's what I've been facing before. So I prepared myself for that. The painful part was when people were still like, is it going on? Is it still going on? Um,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was then, yes. And of course, like right now, when everything is going there, being experiencing all of this anger and fear for everyone that are left there, it's also a part of a part of the emotion, a part of the experience that I still need to figure out how to deal with.
Yeah.
So would you
Yes.
say that's kind of like a survivor's guilt kind of thing? Where,
Um,
Hmm.
might be, yeah.
yeah, I'm so sorry that you're having to go through all of this. That's absolutely awful.
It's
Yes.
heartbreaking.
Okay.
Have you been able to connect with any other Ukrainians in New York or some type of support groups there to
Mhm.
help
Yeah.
you get through the PTSD or to just talk to
Mhm.
whenever you need or to
Talk
just
to
get a bit
someone.
of home, if you will, while you're in New York?
Mhm.
Honestly, been joining these manifestations in New York, which were organized by Erasmus for Ukraine. It's the group, it's the organization that's been also
Nice.
helping a lot with humanitarian help. So yes, it's definitely. I live in the area where I knew there were Ukrainians. There used to be Ukrainians some years back, but I never know
Mhm.
they are still there. And now that I see the flags there, it really really helps me. Saying that, oh my
What,
gosh, I'm not alone here.
what part of
Yes.
New York are you? I used to live in New York for like 21 years. What part of New York are you in?
Astoria.
Okay. Yep. 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 Makes sense. Yep.
Quick comment online from Mike Winter. Republicans retaking the House probably made the situation scarier. This weekend, there was some ridiculous misinformation discussions about the U.S. not having enough weapons. Um, MTG and Jim Jordan will be all over that BS after I don't know who's Baby Tuckums spreads more of the BS. Baby Tuckums? Don't know who that is.
What?
Okay. All right. Um, any
Rob.
final questions? Maybe Johnny, did you want to ask one final question before we let
Um,
Vita go?
yeah, I kind of wanted to know, I guess more towards the PTSD, if your family is suffering in that sense. I know that most people are, but if you notice that your family's suffering from any PTSD in the same way you are, or it kind of manifests differently in your family members.
I don't think it manifested yet. I think they're like pulling their strands all together just to go through it
Oh,
because they are still in that zone. So it didn't manifest yet. All I can say is like they are definitely exhausted.
I
Everybody
bet.
exhausted and everybody's
I bet.
traumatized. It's just to what extent it will show later.
Yeah, I bet.
oh
Yeah.
God.
All right, Vita. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us. The world definitely needs to know what's happening in your home. And I noticed when Rob asked the question about home, out of curiosity, where's your home?
Mm,
Ukraine.
Ukraine. I
Ukraine,
thought so.
of course.
yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to give you a minute for any last words. Anything you'd like to say or share with our audience?
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much for bringing this up, for bringing Ukraine up. I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support because I think that the countries and the political systems are only helping because of the people protests and manifestations. And
Yes.
I'm forever grateful, and I'm sure that I speak on behalf of everyone that we're like it's so much appreciated, it's so much valued that it just there's not enough words to express that. So
Yes.
Aw.
thank you everyone.
We thank you. We
Well,
thank you for
thank
sharing your
you.
story. We're
Vita,
happy that you're
thank you for
Wish
safe.
you
being
the best
brave.
of luck.
I'm glad your
Best
family
of
is
luck to
safe as
you and
well.
your family. Take care.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you.
All right.
Mhm.
Wow.
What a story.
Wow.
What a story.
A very
Wow,
heartwarming story, and I
Vita.
think it's one that because we've been privileged here in America,
We have
not
been.
really to have been invaded. You know, we have not been a part of any we've been a part of incidents. They don't like to call them wars, but incidents
Yes.
over the past few decades, but nothing on this scale. And
No.
it's there are a lot of civil wars going on around the world that we know of, some that we really don't hear about a lot, but it's also very difficult to maintain and manage your identity, your home, when you've been invaded by another
Absolutely.
Yeah.
country.
That's true.
So
Absolutely.
That's very
this is
true.
very interesting stuff that I think everyone needs to hear.
Yeah. She was a
Yeah.
fantastic guest for sure. All
Thank
right. Now we've got to get into our topics.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Kind of hard to switch gears after that deep story,
I
I tell you.
know. It was very
Oh,
deep.
World Cup's going to be deep too. Qatar
It
has
is.
There's
Qatar
gonna be
is
some stuff
awful as
there.
Oh
well.
All
yeah.
right. Rob, you
Qatar is
got some more
awful as
international
well.
news. Human rights abuses in Qatar, home of the world FIFA World Cup. What's going on?
All right. Well, so as some of you may know, the FIFA 2022 World Cup tournament kicked off today in Qatar and runs for a full month until the final in Doha on the 18th of December. So the tournament opener saw host nation Qatar lose to Ecuador 2-0 in full time today. And over the next 30 days, there are going to be 64 games played by 32 international teams before players return to their respective clubs. So bookies and experts have been checking out the teams, and the favorites are Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, England. No real surprises there. US and Canada find themselves rated middle of the pack. And so just so you know,
U.S.
USA
is
is in
middle.
group. Yeah, they're about middle of the pack. US
All right.
is in Group B, and they play Wales tomorrow. And Canada's in Group F and plays Belgium on Wednesday. So,
Belgium.
despite the excitement, the host nation selection has been scrutinized harshly and with good reason. Qatar, which is located in the Persian Gulf, won the bid in 2010, and it was speculated that they essentially bought it. They are one of the most oil-rich nations out there. One of the first concessions was that the tournament would be played during the winter months because the temperature in the summer there can exceed 45 degrees Celsius, which is about
Too hot.
113 Fahrenheit. Too hot
Mm.
to play that caliber of soccer. So let's get into some of the nitty gritty. As far as labor abuses are concerned, the tournament required the construction of 8 stadiums. And during that time, it has been speculated that there are some 6,500 migrant workers from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka who have died due to unsafe work conditions. LGBTQ rights are something that is really not followed and respected. Khalid Salman of the Qatar World Cup ambassador, or the World Cup ambassador, made heads explode November 8th when he described homosexuality as damage in the mind. So homosexuality still holds legal precedent to be for incarceration and punishment. Not a good place to be. As far as fans are concerned, they have been warned. There is no true freedom of religion in Qatar. So don't preach other religions, don't criticize Islam, because you could be criminally prosecuted. Some of the teams have taken a stand on the human rights issues, wanting it to have it emblazoned on their jerseys. But FIFA officials shot that down because it's a political statement and they don't want to be part of that. So a lot of countries have actually toned down their country's emblems so that they're barely even visible. Then designated alcohol zones, well, that's just kind of a party thing. But usually Heineken, Budweiser, big sponsors. And in a last minute move, Qatar decided to eliminate beer sales from the stadiums. So there's still select areas where you can drink, but this is a dry country. Yeah, so pretty much.
Right.
And that's just a quick synopsis of a lot of things that are going on. So, my friends, I'm soliciting your thoughts on Qatar hosting the World Cup tournament. If you are going to be watching, and if yes, who you will be supporting.
Liz?
Well, of course, I'm going to be watching. It's my job to watch. And who will I be supporting? Hello, United States.
US.
Even though
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if we got out of the first group. I'd be happy. That'd be a good showing for us, considering we didn't qualify for the last World Cup. But in terms of all of the controversies and the human rights violations that you just described, I'm shocked that everyone else is shocked. I'm shocked that
Yeah.
That's
everyone
fair.
else is shocked about this.
That's fair.
One,
Right.
because again, it's Qatar, but also two, this is the way FIFA and the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, works, at least for the past 2 decades. Remember the Sochi Winter Olympics in Russia? The
Mhm.
exact same human rights violations that Rob just described were a part of those Olympics, where you had migrant workers who were being overly worked and who built the stadiums, where you had the LBG community being swept off the streets or not allowed to be out openly, where you
And it's
had
funny you
people,
mention
other
it, Liz,
people
because the last FIFA World Cup was played where? In Russia in
in Russia.
2018.
And the funny
Oh,
thing about
wow.
that, Rob, is that I always forget that 2018 World Cup was in Russia because I blocked it out of my head. But it's one of those things where over the
Wow.
past 2 decades, both FIFA and the IOC are choosing countries based on what? Dollar bills, y'all. It does not
Money.
matter about human rights. It does not matter about the greater good of
Damn it.
the human race. That's what matters. I currently, I teach sports journalism at the School of the New York Times. And for most of the students that I teach now, they're not sports fans. So they want to know, what else is there to learn about sports besides wins and losses, besides stats. And I always say to them, sports is political. Sports is
Politics.
about everyday lives. It's about what we
Yep.
experience every day. There's just a game attached. And you know how much Qatar spent on this World Cup? $220 billion.
Billion.
200, the most expensive World Cup on the planet to date. Rob talked about the temperatures. This is the first World Cup where they have to have air conditioning in the stadiums and on the grass.
Oh,
So folks
wow.
don't get the heat
Privileged.
stroke. I was watching the game this morning, Rob, and so Qatar played Ecuador, right? Like Rob
Yep.
said, they lost 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Ecuador in the stands, you look at all the fans, it was a pretty mixed crowd.
Mhm.
Men, women, children. On the Qatar side, I don't recall seeing one woman at all. It was all men.
Mm.
It was all men in the crowd. And I gotta say, because Qatar, I mean, yeah, the only reason why they're in the World Cup is because they're the host country. They didn't qualify, they got there by default.
Mhm.
So technically,
Yeah.
they shouldn't even be playing. They shouldn't have a team there. But it was great to see the looks of embarrassment on the faces of the Qatar dignitaries in the stands as
Yeah.
their team got
Mm.
stomped into the ground. So yeah, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna root against them because they don't deserve this, and it's an absolute shame. It's an
Yeah.
absolute shame.
So okay,
So
so I'm gonna jump. Hold on, Johnny. So only
okay.
because my point is almost related to Lizzie's point, almost directly related.
Uh-oh.
So as I was reading the articles, I was feeling all the anger towards Qatar, and then I ran across a headline that said the objections to Qatar hosting the World Cup reek of Eurocentrism. And it was an opinion column by Ahmed Taji on NBCNews.com. And I was like, okay, all right, let me read this because, like you say, I'm all into it. And in the article, he says the Qatari people and the Middle East deserve to celebrate the global sport of football. The 2022 World Cup will be a rare opportunity to humanize the Middle East, a contrast to the headlines of war and Islamophobic narratives. He notes that rather than celebrating the first ever World Cup in the Middle East, the first ever, instead, there's an endless stream of negative headlines about Qatar hosting the World Cup. He talks about Qatar being condemned for possibly bribing FIFA to get the games.
Not
But then, of
possibly,
course,
they did. They
but
did
then,
not.
of course, he points out, even if that were true,
Alleged.
there's been allegations of corruption in FIFA for decades where bribes were the only way to get the World Cup. And then he talks about the allegations of migrant workers being killed that Rob mentioned, although likely true, obviously.
Uh,
He tried to put in perspective, pointing out, of course, as Lizzie kind of mentioned, Sochi and all of the other human rights violations
Brazil, South Africa.
throughout the history of FIFA World Cup, not just Qatar, but again, it seems there's a focus on Qatar, and we're not really celebrating the fact that this is the first
that is
um,
true.
this is the first World Cup in the
Non.
Middle East ever. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I was torn because the atrocities are pretty significant. Um, but at the same time, I do kind of want to celebrate this fact of this first, even if they did have to bribe FIFA officials to get it,
I
because
don't have to
everybody
celebrate
was
it.
bribing FIFA officials to get the World
I
Cup.
don't have to celebrate it. I don't. It's not my job to prop up Islam. That's not my
Okay, so you
Yeah.
have a
responsibility.
problem with Islam.
No, I have a problem with his notion that it's our responsibility, especially as the media, to shed a light on the fact that this is the first country, in that region. So that's not my responsibility. If they want a positive light, then they need to do better.
That's
They need
fair.
to
Yeah,
do
they
better.
should have
They need
done
to
it
be
right.
better.
That's fair. Johnny.
Simple as that.
I do I do think it's cool that this is a first for FIFA World Cup, but you got to do it right. It's like a kid trying to steal candy. Like it's me. It's not, you don't do things like that. It's unethical. But I was going to ask Lizzie, if this wasn't your job, would you still be watching the World Cup? Like, would you be
Would
interested
I
in
be
watching
watching
it?
soccer? No.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a soccer fan. No. But you know
Fo-
what? Let me just answer that and say I'm still a sports fan.
Football. It's in the FIFA
And
Football.
football.
listen, I am
Right.
speaking on a North American platform. It's soccer over here. But let me just say that I recognize there is a bit of hypocrisy in all of us as humans. Okay.
Hmm.
That's just
Oh,
who
yeah.
we are as people. And so I do understand your point and what you're saying. And I mean, I still watch the NFL. I still watch the NBA. I'm very critical. Just because you call out something doesn't mean that you still can't examine it and watch it.
Right.
And so I'll never defend FIFA. I'll never defend the IOC. I think it's all BS. But I also think I don't know if you guys are familiar with Live, LIV, the LIV Live Golf platform now, which is trying to take all of the smoke away from the PGA golf in the United States.
Oh, wow.
But Live Golf
Independent.
is funded by Saudi Arabia, another
Oh,
country in
yes.
that region that has tremendous
Oil
human rights
rich.
violations, that had 15 terrorists invade US soil, or I'm sorry, US airways on 9/11. The same country whose crown prince basically ordered the assassination of an American journalist at the Saudi Arabian consulate. And we still back them. We still give money. In fact, the Biden administration on Thursday said that we should, lean off of the crown prince of Saudi Arabia as these lawsuits start to come about for him. So we all are being hypocrites here.
So
All
let
of
me
us.
let me.
Doesn't make it right.
We're out of time, but
Doesn't
let
make
me
it right.
let me ask this question. So, who can host the World Cup in that sense? Because I'd like to point out. I mean, the U.S., most of Europe, of course, Russia, China have all had human rights violations. So, who is able to host the World Cup,
Jamaica.
the FIFA World Cup, if that's the case? Yeah.
Jamaica
mean,
does not have the infrastructure to host the World Cup.
But I mean,
would be
that's
a
the
whole
question. I mean, we want to point out Qatar did this, Qatar did that. U.S. is worse. Has killed way more people than Qatar. It has.
I
internally.
just think
But the government here in the past 20, 30 years has killed more people here. I'm not talking about internationally, I'm talking about on home soil. The government.
We've
on
talked
home base.
about we've talked about the
Well,
government killing people for centuries, decades.
I'm not, no,
Our
I'm
police
talking
force,
about
our
the police force is not the police force is not federal government. The police forces in the United
we're
States are
talking
not
about
run.
countries as a whole, and their laws and their.
But our countries our country as a whole is run differently than other countries. We have
Oh,
federal government and we
see.
have state governments.
See, now you're
Yes, the federal
justifying
government.
it to say that,
I'm not
the U.S.
justifying.
is
I'm explaining government to you. I'm
no.
explaining government to you. I'm not
U.S. is
justifying anything.
worse
I'm
than
explaining
Qatar.
government to you. U.S. is not worse
We have
than Qatar,
violated.
than its
Our
own people.
government
the
has
U.S.
violated
arguably
women's
is
rights.
worse.
We violated LGBTQ rights. The federal government. We violated human racial rights.
Is being
Experimenting
gay
on
against the
people.
law in the United States?
Not currently, but it has been.
I'm talking about now. We're talking
In
about
some
current.
places, it is. Yes.
In the United States, no, it's not. It's not on the books in the United States.
Sodomy is still in the books in many
I said
states.
but see, first of all, sodomy isn't just a homosexual activity. First of all, let's be clear.
Okay, but it still
Transgender-
targets homosexuality. Come on, let's be honest.
But homosexuality isn't just about the act of sex. So my question to you
It still
because
targets it.
But in Qatar, being homosexual is illegal and is punishable by up to 7 years in prison. That is not
What
the
I'm
case
saying is
here.
potato,
There are no
potato. You're
there
kind
are
of
no
comparing
rights for women
human rights
here.
violations.
Do
They
not
are
walk
all
down the
bad.
street in Qatar and be a free woman here.
The U.S. is not better. You
I'm
sit
not
on these
saying- I'm not
soapboxes
saying-
and
Neil,
Yeah,
say
it's like
that the
choosing
U.S. is
I'm not
better.
saying
Neil,
the US
It's
is
not.
You're
about
bringing
this.
up
I
no,
never
Neil.
said
You're
the US
talking
is about this.
cultural.
You cannot compare it to Qatar. You
You're
cannot
talking
compare
Oh,
cultural,
I
Neil.
disagree. I completely
Neil,
disagree.
But people
I'm
are
with
different.
Liz.
Completely
You
disagree.
cannot.
Neil,
Well, you-
Completely
the
disagree.
distinction
do
here
you
is
realize
that
we
you're
wouldn't be
talking
able
about
to have this
cultural
part-
values and
we
norms,
wouldn't
where
even be
Liz is
able to have
discussing
this podcast
legal.
in Qatar. We wouldn't be able to have this podcast in Qatar.
That's
Okay.
true. That's
Neil and
true.
I could.
It does affect you. It does affect you differently being there. It's not just a cultural
I mean,
thing,
there's
like
places
Rob
where you
said.
can smoke weed and places where you can't. I mean, I'm just saying that there are laws that are different all over the world.
That
You
was
can't claim
nonsense
that your
on my
law is better
birthday,
than someone
whatever.
else's, is all I'm saying.
I kind of agree to that part
Yes,
too,
you
though.
absolutely can. We can
Disagree.
absolutely look at the inequities
can.
in Sharia law. Neil, absolutely.
Disagree.
Absolutely.
Totally disagree.
You can
We're going to have to
disagree, but
disagree because we're way
wrong.
over time, and our last two topics
That's
will
an
have to be
interesting
quick fire.
conversation, though.
This was a pretty deep conversation. All right, so let's
was
we
a
have to
lot.
shut it
Human
down.
rights.
There's a lot of comments online, but we have to try to get some of these comments
Loud
online.
and wrong
we,
once again.
let's get to real quick. Neo, she's making a valid. This is Mike Winter. And she's distinctions between federal government ordering mass executions of groups of people. I know that our federal government has ordered mass executions of groups of people. So
When? When in the last 20 years?
every time we go to war. So Jacqueline
In the
Robinson.
United States. We're talking about in the United States.
So I'm talking about humans. Just because it's not
Yeah.
internal. See, you're talking about, you're trying to specify that
Oh, I
one
see.
human rights violation
You're
versus
saying.
another is okay. I disagree.
No influence internationally. What do you mean you disagree?
I disagree. You
Qatar
can't
has
say
no
one
power
human rights violation is
internationally.
better than another.
But we are specifically talking about what's going on in this particular country and people going to that country.
And I'm
to
saying that
study
we
into
have
that country.
similarly
That's what we're
bad
talking
human
about.
rights
That's
violations
what
as a
we're
country.
talking
Neo,
about.
in 2026, I promise you that travelers from Islamic nations will not be warned to not practice their faith openly in North America. I promise you that's not going to be a warning. So, meh. Meh.
That's kind of true, though, Neo.
Okay. All right.
That's
So
true.
I still disagree. Jacqueline Robinson, you have to remember that Qatar is a theocracy, and there's no way that the U.S. is worse. We do not have a perfect union, but we're always striving to do better.
Yeah.
We even
Uh,
have a female vice president, for goodness sake. You think that's happening in Qatar? Come on. Whew.
I mean, I know
I
we can
feel
all
like
say that we're better than everyone else. We look from our
You are
glass
better.
houses.
we're not better.
We're looking from
We're
our
not
glass
better.
houses, saying that we're better than everybody else. I
Yeah.
disagree.
I do not. I
We're living in
disagree.
our glass houses. If I threw a rock,
It's not living in a glass house. It's
if
not
I threw a
living in a glass
rock,
house if you're
okay.
critical of both. There's no one on this panel who is not critical of the U.S. government,
All right.
first of all. Let's be clear on that.
All
Yeah.
right, we got Lizzie. We're gonna make
True.
this a quick fire. You got 3 minutes. Sorry about that. We took up a lot of time in that discussion. So,
Oh, that
Lizzie,
was
you're
true.
up.
So we are going to talk about another act of violence. It did not happen on U.S. soil, but it happened to a U.S. citizen. Shanquella Robinson, who was from Charlotte, North Carolina, she went to Mexico on, I believe it was October 27th, with a group of friends. I'm going to put that in quotes, friends, and was dead by the next day. Initially, her friends told officials and her family that she died of alcohol poisoning. But after the autopsy came back and revealed that she had a broken neck and severe injuries to her spine, a homicide investigation began, both in Mexico and in the United States. And now the FBI is involved. Her friends are now making tons of videos and statements on social media saying, wasn't me, wasn't me. I didn't kill her. But these same friends did not even stay with the body. They hightailed it out of Mexico ASAP and have not been in contact with the family since. So, my question to the panel, yes, friends, like Houdini said, friends, how many of us have them? Friends, are these friends or foes? What do you make of this situation?
Let's start with Rob.
Yeah, when I watched the video, it was absolutely shocking. Attacking someone while they're naked puts you at a distinct advantage, and it displays a complete lack of honor on the part of the assailant. If someone was beating on my naked friend, I would drop the phone and help them. It's not let somebody else beat them
That's
down.
a crazy
It's just
thing.
messed up, right? And I mean, it speaks volume to the videographer's character. So at the end of the day, it definitely looks like there's shenanigans aplenty, and I hope that they get. I hope that the extradition rules come into play.
Johnny,
Yeah.
real quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely disgusting. I've been hearing about this a lot because she's in my age group, so it's been everywhere. But I think the reason people too are so invested in this case is because, like Liz said, it's sad to think that people you call your friends or associates would set you up, torture you, and you die. And imagine that being the closest people to you. I know that the guy that was like recording was apparently her best friend of 5 years or something like that. He was the closest one to her, and he was the one who was telling her to fight. And if anyone has seen the video, like the audience members, then you'll see it's just thankfully social media helped this case get to FBI status, because I'm interested to see these people go down. I think that is very, very disgusting.
Yeah,
Very
this
disgusting.
story
Very
was
sad.
crazy to me. I mean, this woman was beating the shit out of
And she
of
wasn't
Shanquella.
fighting.
I mean, and she was not fighting back. I mean, at one point, does your brain say, "Okay, stop. I'm going to stop doing this"? And then what point, like Rob said, does the guy filming it not just say, "Oh, damn, let me go help her"? Because even when he asked at one point, "Why are you not fighting back? Why are you not fighting back? You know, are you going to fight back?" She says, "No," very meekly. She says, "No, I'm not going to fight back." And then I honestly think at the end of the video, I think that might be the moment that we see because the woman takes her by her head, and so
Yeah, she just
she died
stays
of a.
there.
I mean, well, she was found with a broken spine, a neck. So she takes her by the head, and you can see in the video that she goes a little bit limp shortly after she's thrown by the head. So I mean, she might have been limp from the blows, but either way, I mean, it's like horrible. I couldn't believe it.
Imagine her parents having her dad had to watch
Oh,
it and
her
speak
dad's video is
online and speak
heartbreaking.
to people.
Video
Yeah.
was
Her
crazy.
dad said that she wasn't a fighter, so why would her friends put her in that position to fight? And that's why they know that it was murder.
Real quick, Liz.
Unfortunately, I think this probably had to do with some guy. That's usually the first thing that gets females, young ladies fighting one another is over a guy. But I've taken, and Gianna, you'll do this as you get older if you haven't started to do it already. But I've taken numerous trips with my girlfriends, with my groups of
Mhm.
friends, out of town, out of the country, or whatever. And we have one motto, actually two mottos: no
Mhm.
chica left behind. So there's no way I would have left my friend in Mexico, but also
Exactly.
not on my watch. I'm not allowing my friend to get hurt, to walk off with somebody they don't know, to allow somebody to attack
Exactly.
them. Those are your friends. And so it's really sad that in her final moments, her friends were not there for her. She had no friends
Yep,
there for her. And
no
I feel
question.
Yeah.
horrible that this happened.
Yep.
I
Horrible.
know.
Horrible.
All right, last one.
Mm.
All right, I'm gonna make this really, really quick. Um, but I just want to talk about Hakeem Jeffries because Hakeem Jeffries, you may not know, but Nancy Pelosi decided, who she was 82 years old, she decided to finally give up being the Speaker of the House or being the highest ranking member of the House. Shortly after her husband, who was recently attacked by a MAGA extremist, she decided to step down because of those reasons and her age, I guess, calling for new
Yes.
blood to lead the Democrats. And it's looking like that new blood is Hakeem Jeffries of New York. He put in his bid this weekend to be the first black person to lead a major political party in Congress. And he'll do that potentially along with Representatives Catherine Clark of Massachusetts and Pete Aguilar of California, who would replace the outgoing majority leader, Representative Steny Hoyer of Maryland, and the whip, Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, who are both also in their 80s. So
Mhm.
quickly, share your thoughts on Hakeem Jeffries and what this change means for leadership in the Democratic Party. I'll start with Gianni.
I mean, like Pelosi said, it's time for a new generation of leaders to come in. So I think that's a good thing. They're way. Is it rude to call some? Yeah, that's ageist. I think that it's good that we have some fresh blood. I think.
What, you want to
You
call her
can say
old?
they're
What?
old. They
Did you
are
want to call her
Yeah, I was
old.
gonna
old?
They
call her
are
Is she
old.
old.
old? Is she
They
old?
old.
I mean, I want to be 82 one day. I don't want somebody to call me old. But no.
But you'll be
The prior.
old.
He's old. Listen, today is Joe Biden's 80th birthday. He's
Yep.
old. He's old. Ain't
Joe
nothing wrong
Biden.
What
with
is
that.
it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
he's
Okay,
old.
so
We got old folks running the country.
All right.
kind of
Rob.
wild. I just
Rob.
feel like the prior generation of like black politicians, they were like in the civil rights, right, like era. And I think that what's his name?
Hakeem.
Hakeem
Hakeem.
Jeffries.
Yes. He kind of comes from a different perspective. Like he came when America was like had different races and it was multicultural. So I like him. I think and he's from Brooklyn. So
All right. All right, Rob.
I think that representation matters. I'm doing a little bit of homework on Hakeem Jeffries. He's got some impressive credentials in the last 13, 15 years. So, you know what? Yeah, like Johnny was saying, it's good to change things up, revitalize things, and bring a fresh, new perspective to the job.
Liz, 13
Let
seconds.
me just say that in Qatar, there would be no Nancy Pelosi. There would be no Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, there might be a
And if
Hakeem
there are-
Jeffries.
Not a black Hakeem Jeffries, unless he is from Qatar, there would be no diversity within
Oh,
their
true.
political house. So yeah,
I don't know. I think it's the same
I'm all
shade as
for
many
it.
people in the Middle East.
It has nothing to do. Okay, now you're sounding real ignorant. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
shade.
No.
Help y'all's boy. Help y'all's boy. Help
All right,
y'all's boy.
you know, we didn't do is
Get
this
it in
truth
the
lie
comments.
shenanigans, but we're out of time, so we're just gonna save that for next week. All right, let's get into our game show. All right, because of time, we're only going to go 2 rounds. But this quiz is provided by CNN, and it's the Thanksgiving trivia quiz.
Oh, come on.
Gobble, gobble.
Oh, it's a hidden picture for now. All right,
No,
we'll
but
go around the horn.
It's American. It's American Thanksgiving.
American Thanksgiving, yeah. So we'll go around the horn, answer the question correctly, get a point. Answer it wrong, you get nothing. All right. Person with the most points at the end of the 2 rounds, maybe 3, wins the final word for the show. First question, we're starting with Gianni Storm. While historic accounts vary regarding what exactly was eaten at the first Thanksgiving feast, what type of food was definitely not present in 1600s New England when pilgrims first arrived? Would that be pumpkin, cranberries, potatoes, or corn?
Cranberries? That's a cocaine.
Let's see. That is incorrect. That would be potatoes.
Potato.
cranberry sauce. They had cranberry sauce.
No
I wanna
potato.
Potatoes are
see
from
that
South
cranberry
America,
sauce.
and they weren't introduced to America until the 1700s.
I should have
I still don't
known.
believe they had cranberries.
All right, Robbie, let's see.
Yeah, I don't either.
This type of food is not common on traditional Thanksgiving tables now, but probably would have been served at the first Thanksgiving meal. Would that be seafood, tomato soup, sausages, or pancakes?
Seafood.
Seafood, I would think seafood too. Yes, that is correct. That is
How did it
correct.
get
Yeah.
Having seafood
The
on
Thanksgiving
Thursday.
crab.
Having seafood on Thursday.
Thanksgiving crab. Coastal settlements meant plenty of seafood, especially shellfish like lobster, oysters, clams, and mussels. All right, Lizzie.
Loves-
This Thanksgiving staple was invented in 1950 by a Campbell Soup Company employee named Dorcas Riley with the hope of boosting sales of one of Campbell's products. Would that be jellied cranberry sauce, green bean casserole, sweet potato casserole, or corn pudding?
Sweet. Oh.
Cranberry sauce. Jelly
Yeah,
cranberry
I would
sauce.
guess cranberry sauce too. That is incorrect.
Oh.
Really?
That is
Green
incorrect.
bean?
Green bean
Ew.
casserole, which is disgusting.
Who is buying that?
We're gonna boost sales. with
If green bean casserole is made right, it's not terrible. Uh-oh.
Not a
Oh,
So
you
can,
tried
though?
it.
Would you
Neo's
buy
tried it.
Campbell's green bean casserole?
I've had green bean casserole before, yes.
Or would you buy Campbell's green
Oh, hell
bean
no.
casserole?
Hell
Oh, no.
Hell
Hey.
no. All right. Gianni, back to you. Robbie's in the lead, the Canadian. All right.
Oh, gosh.
Though they're often used interchangeably, what is the biggest technical difference between stuffing and dressing?
I
Would that be
never know.
how they're prepared, what
Yanni,
seasonings are used,
context clues.
the consistency? There is no difference.
Okay. The
what is it?
consistency. How they prepare. The consistency.
I believe that is incorrect. Yeah, it's how they're prepared. So
Yeah,
it's
stuffing goes in the turkey.
stuffing.
In the turkey.
So it gets all the juices from the turkey
But
because it's stuffing.
aren't the consistencies are different though, right, Liz?
I mean,
No.
potentially.
No, Like I'm making dressing because we're not having turkey, but it would be the same dressing I would make that I would put in a turkey.
That you put
if
in
we
this
were to
turkey.
have it.
Oh.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Pardon me. All right,
I'm really losing.
Rob B. Yeah, you lost. You've already lost. You're done.
Well, we can't lose
Horrible.
to Canadians.
What is the most popular Thanksgiving side dish according to a 2020 YouGov poll? Would that be stuffing/dressing, macaroni and cheese, sweet potato casserole, or mashed potatoes? Robbie.
You
I don't even know
Americans.
what
I'm gonna go with mashed potatoes because everyone wants a bland side for everyone.
Yeah, I was
How
thinking
are you
that too.
correct? That seems. I mean, that's correct.
I
Sorry.
don't think that's correct at all.
Wow.
I think that's based on
Mashed
region,
potatoes.
probably based on
They're just
race.
rigged.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
All about
We
the
don't
mac
even do
and
mashed potatoes. I haven't
cheese.
seen mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving feast in like
I mean, I make
ever.
mashed potatoes. I make garlic mashed
I
potatoes,
don't.
garlic parm mashed potatoes, but
See?
it's all about the mac and
Ooh, that
cheese.
sounds
All right,
good
well,
actually.
I'm gonna let you answer the last one, but Robbie already wins. So, while sweet potatoes were readily available in America during the first Thanksgiving, the marshmallow top version wasn't popularized until much later. What do we have to thank for this gooey addition? Or who do we have to thank? Would it be the
Ooh.
French, the Turkish, the Danes, or the Peruvians? Lizzie.
Who was it?
I have no idea. Let's go with
Ooh.
Rob
Dang.
and his French speakers.
French.
Ah,
Yeah,
c'est
let's
bon.
That is
you say right.
correct. That is correct. But Robbie wins the game.
What?
That's a lie. Mashed potatoes. That is a big
Mashed
old
potatoes is
lie.
bullshit. I don't
Yeah,
think that's right.
That's a big old
that's
lie.
kind of wild.
Mashed potatoes. Where in the world? Who did this survey? All right, let's get some shout outs.
Untrue.
All right, Lizzie, let's get some shout outs in. What's going on?
Whoop, whoop.
Uh-oh.
Shout out to the Washington football team. They just won 2 in a row. They beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football, and then they beat the lowly Texans today. Whoop whoop, whoop whoop. WFT, WFT. We are now 6 and 5, 6
Wow.
and 5 in the nation's capital.
Okay.
Great.
All right, Robbie.
Special birthday shout out to my mother-in-law Raina, and a shout out to all of my
Aw.
fellow Northerners. Take heart, grab your shovels and snow gear. We've got this.
I like that. Johnny Storm.
Shout out to you guys, shout out to the audience, and just have a really good holiday this coming up week. Enjoy your family, be safe, stay home, hug people, hug a tree, smile, and yeah.
And stay out
All
of
right.
Johnny's truck.
And for my shout
Stay
out, I
away
just
from
want to
my
say have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Like Johnny said, enjoy it with your family, your friends. But I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Everyone have
Yes.
some green bean casserole.
Green and some mashed
Right.
potatoes, green bean casserole, and mashed potatoes for
I was
Thanksgiving.
making mashed potatoes, but green bean casserole?
Ew.
All right. I'd like to thank
If you
you. I thank all of you for joining us. We hope you learned something, gained a new perspective, or simply had some laughs today. We will be off next weekend to enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday with our families. We hope you do the same. In the meantime, you can check out all our previous episodes by subscribing to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And it looks like our winner for the final thought is Mr. Robbie.
What? So, as Thanksgiving approaches, just remember to reach out to your loved ones. Be kind, and if it's within your means, participate in a food drive or a local activity to help someone in your community.
Love
Ooh,
that.
yes, do that. That's a good one.
All right. Thank you, Robbie Rock, Lizzie, Gianni. But most importantly, we've got to thank you for listening to our shenanigans each and every week. Guys, have a great Thanksgiving. See you next time.
Eat lots, eat